Hi, I'm Jacqueline Guerin, Social Impact Coordinator for Upper Hunter Weathersville, and I'm here today with Professor Lee Waters to find out why so many kids are having a couple of days off school this week because there's no teachers at the school. So Lee, what are the teachers doing?
Oh, well, it's great to be up in Upper Hunter and working with a whole bunch of teachers from a whole bunch of schools, training them around the principles of wellbeing so that no doubt the kids are all having fun today away from school, but when they come back to school, it's not just going to be about learning academic knowledge. We're working with the teachers to help them get a better understanding of how they can tune into the wellbeing of their students and help the sons and daughters from all across this region learn the skills at an early age of how to better understand and manage their own wellbeing.
So we hear a lot about wellbeing these days. What exactly is it?
That's a really good question because it is a word that's used a lot, isn't it? And I mean, as a psychologist, the way that I would look at wellbeing is pretty simple. It's just a state of where someone is feeling good and functioning well. So they understand their own emotions, they understand how their emotions influence their behaviour, and then that flows on to helping them learn more effectively, helping them form good friendships, and helping them to manage themselves better in situations, home, family, school.
Yeah. So the teachers are here learning your visible wellbeing. Mm-hmm. What's visible wellbeing?
Another good question. I mean, there's various approaches to helping teachers learn the science behind wellbeing, and what we're doing with the Visible Wellbeing programs is sort of essentially what the word says. It's helping us as adults learn how to see more clearly the state of wellbeing of young people. So taking something that's kind of invisible, because we all have wellbeing, it sits inside of us, it's part of our own inner emotional landscape, and helping us have those skills to kind of tune in to take something that's invisible and make it more visible in the moment. And that way, if well-being is low in that moment, we have more confidence about how to help build someone back up and give them confidence. And if well-being is good in that moment, these are the best times to extend someone and help a kid have more confidence and try something new because their state of well-being is good. But we only know that if we learn how to make that visible.
Yeah. Okay. So what's so important about wellbeing? And why is it so important for the kids to start to understand it?
These are questions are music to my ears. The thing about well-being, you know, again, speaking as a psychologist, is that well-being, I see well-being like a resource. So everyone has a state of well-being. Sometimes it's low, sometimes it's high, sometimes it's kind of in the middle. What we know is when we have high levels of well-being, that's a resource, because when we feel good, we have high levels of well-being, we learn more effectively, we have better social skills, we have better goals, we have better motivation. So well-being is so foundational to everything, and the neuroscientists are now showing us that, you know, we think more clearly when we have positive emotions. The medical scientists are showing us that when we have positive emotions, it boosts our immune system, it affects our hormone system, it affects our ability to relate to other people. So it's a question that I could answer for a long time, but the key answer is that wellbeing is a resource. If we can help our students at school to better see their wellbeing and to better build their wellbeing, then that's a resource for them that they carry with them everywhere, that helps them to learn, relate, achieve goals, be motivated.
Well, that kind of answers my next question, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Okay.
So are there any disadvantages to my children? I've got 3 boys.
Yeah.
Spending time learning about wellbeing, are they going to be disadvantaged academically at all?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. I mean, I think that's a natural question as a parent to ask. Like, if my child, and I have kids too, if my son and my daughter are spending time at school learning the techniques for building their own mental health, isn't that taking time away from learning about maths, learning about English? And in one sense it is, it's taking time away from, but what the science just so clearly shows us is that when a young person feels good, they function well. So even though we're taking time away from a maths lesson or an English lesson, when they come back into that lesson with a better understanding of their own emotions and their own thought patterns and what it is that makes them motivated, they get much more benefit from that lesson. So, I mean, the good news is 3 decades worth of research now of scientists who've asked that question. Same question that a parent asked, maybe they were parents as well, showing that when a school invests in teaching the skills for mental health and wellbeing to a young person, those students do better academically. And it just comes down to what we all know anyway as parents, you know, just that common sense of when a young person feels good, they function well. When you feel good, you're receptive to learning, you're motivated, you're engaged, you want to do well.
It all sounds like common sense.
Yes, exactly.
So what, as a parent, could I do to support the school in what my kids are learning about wellbeing then?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a number of ways that parents can support the school, and one way is to ask questions of the school, learn a little bit more about what it is that the teachers have actually learned through the Visible Wellbeing training, ask your kids at home. I mean, one of the biggest things that we see with the Visible Wellbeing approach is the kids end up teaching their parents. And my kids do the same with me. You know, if I'm stressed and I'm driving, and because I live in Melbourne, so crazy traffic, my kids will now tell me, "Mum, you need to take a deep breath."
That's lovely.
So it is. So being open to what your kids are learning at school, asking questions of the teachers. I mean, teaching is a really hard role. Parenting is a really hard role.
Yeah.
And then you imagine parenting or teaching your kids multiplied by a class of 20.
Yeah.
I think any way in which a parent can have that intention of how do I support you as a teacher. Don't just go to the teacher when things are going wrong, go to the teacher when things are going right. Express your gratitude, look for the strengths in the teacher as well. Because the more that you build up your kids' teachers, the more they can build up your kids.
Yeah. It's all about relationships in some ways.
So important, yeah.
So what you're doing up here in the Upper Hunter,
Yeah.
how is that different to how you usually deliver your visible wellbeing?
Yeah, yeah. And this is where it's so exciting to be a part of this project in Upper Hunter, because it really is a national first. We have delivered the Visible Wellbeing Partnership all across Australia, Canada, Asia, but we've never delivered it as a whole scale community project. And so the biggest size of cluster school we've had is 4 schools. And now all of a sudden we're working with 19 schools, and it's really about using schools as the vehicle or the engine to create community change. And that's where it's really different to what we've done before, which is working with a school to help build mental health in their students. And now we're working with 19 schools to create mental health across a whole community. And it's super exciting.
So how do you think this might impact our community?
Yeah. What happens when you work with schools is you start to see a spillover effect.
Yeah.
So the teachers that we're training in these 2 days, they're going to have the impact in the classroom with their students, but they're also going home, their parents, their partners, their friends, their sons and daughters. So it spills out through the teachers. And then, as I said earlier, it spills out through the students as well. It spills out through into the sports clubs, it spills out into the families, it spills out into the other kind of community institutions. And again, this is not just me sort of being hopeful. This isn't just wishful thinking. There's really good science behind this. And in psychology, we call it the emotional contagion effect.
Yeah, I was thinking ripple effect.
Ripple effect, yeah. That's a really good way of looking at it
Yeah.
too. But what we know in psychology is that the emotions that I have, you catch them.
Yeah.
And it's like catching a common cold, except it's like catching a positive version of a common cold. So our emotions are contagious, our well-being is contagious. If you help to develop the well-being of one person, it has an impact on all of their networks and develops the well-being in their networks as well.
Wow. So what would you, if you put in your hope lens on, vision the Upper Hunter to look like in, say, 5 years' time?
Okay, Upper Hunter in 5 years' time is going to be a flourishing community. There are going to be high levels of social relationships, high levels of emotional vitality, a lot of physical fitness, a lot of awareness, that visibility of when things aren't going so well and being able to talk about it, have a language for it, reach out, get help earlier. And a lot of people who are equipped either just through something like a Visible Wellbeing or more formal training to be able to pitch in and help.
Wow, it sounds like a really exciting time for us
Yeah.
here in the Upper Hunter.
Can't wait to see it.
Thank you so much for your time today and for clarifying what wellbeing is and teaching me about your visible wellbeing program.
Anytime, anytime.